Hi everyone. I want to begin by sharing a story of an unemployed cleaning woman who lived in St. Louis. Well, one day she noticed a few bees buzzing around the attic of her home. Since there were only a few, she made no effort to deal with them. Well, over time, the bees continued to fly in and out of the attic vent, while the woman remained unconcerned and unaware of the growing city of bees. Well, eventually, the whole attic became a hive, and the ceiling of the second floor bedroom finally caved in under the weight of hundreds of pounds of honey and thousands of angry bees. Now, while the woman escaped serious injury, she was unable to repair the damage of her accumulated neglect. Most problems we face in life demand that we address them. If we ignore them, we inevitably find ourselves having to deal with them sooner or later. More complex issues, especially ones that have accumulated over time, cannot always be solved with a Band-Aid fix. Sometimes an overhaul needs to be performed, such as doing an extreme makeover on your bedroom because the ceiling caved in due to hundreds of pounds of beehive, rather than simply just calling an exterminator in the beginning, which would have solved the problem much earlier. So I've been doing this series in the book of Nehemiah, and we're going to finish the series today. We've been in Nehemiah for 12 weeks, so thank you for hanging in there, and congratulations if you made it through the whole book. I hope you've gained something from studying this book in the Bible. So during Nehemiah's day, there was this great need for reformation. It was needed when Nehemiah first arrived in Jerusalem, and we're going to see that it was needed once again. After being governor for Judah for 12 years, Nehemiah returns to the king Artaxerxes, as he had promised in the beginning when the king allowed Nehemiah to go to Jerusalem to rebuild the wall. Well, after some time, things had fallen apart. While he was gone, the Jews abandoned their binding agreement to carefully obey God. When Nehemiah returns, he learns that services at the temple had been abandoned, God's tithes had not been paid, and the Levites who had served at the temple were forced to go back to their farms in order to survive. The people work on the Sabbath. The holy day of rest in Jerusalem has been transformed into a market day. And once again, some men of Judah, including some of the sons of the high priest, took wives from foreign nations that worship idols rather than the Lord. So what does Nehemiah do? Nehemiah brings reform by correcting each abuse, and then he calls on God to remember his faithfulness. What we find is that the issues that were addressed in chapter 10 resurface again in chapter 13. They made a commitment in Nehemiah 9:38, a covenant, a binding agreement, which they seem to waste no little time in breaking. We find that there's been a lack of follow-through, creating a need for things to be reformed again. You know, it was, to use an analogy, it was like going to an amazing week-long conference, where people come into the conference feeling, beaten down and guilty and ashamed. And the first few days are spent in soul-searching and confession. And then the next couple of days are spent in renewing commitments and reconciling relationships, with everyone coming out of this with a mountaintop experience. But then what happens when people come down off the mountain? They leave the conference, they go home all charged up and recommitted. And yet we find that drifting takes place in the lives of so many people. After a few weeks or months down the road, we see people doing the same things that they confessed and repented of when they were on the mountaintop. And that's what Nehemiah chapter 13 is all about. It's about the human tendency to drift, to walk away from our commitments. That is why reformation is always needed. If we fail to continually seek God, our lives will never escape being in need of reformation. We will have the tendency to drift away from God and toward our old sinful habits and selfish ways. Seeking God for only a season is not going to produce lasting changes in our lives. That's why the gospel is needed. That is why Jesus had to come and die. We will never get it 100% right. We can try to reform our lives by our own efforts, but we will fall short every time. And that's what the Pharisees tried to do in Jesus' day, and it separated them from God. They tried to be right with God through their own self-righteousness. God says the only way we can truly be righteous is through the righteousness of Christ. If we could clean up our act and always be 100% good and 0% bad all the time, we wouldn't need Jesus to be our substitute. But the problem is, we can't. So God sent his one and only Son, Jesus, to die in our place and resurrected him from the dead so that whoever believes in him will also be raised from the dead and be given a new life in God's eternal kingdom. Salvation is by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. Now that doesn't mean we continue to live a lifestyle that is harmful or unhealthy. God wants what is best for us. God gives us his perspective so that we can live life as it was meant to be lived, as God designed it. And when we find areas in our lives that are out of alignment, reformation is needed to bring those areas in line with God. It was needed in Nehemiah's day, and it's still needed in our day.